Hey everybody, this is Alex Merced from AlexMercedCoder.dev, and if you watch some of my more recent React videos, you know that I've really fallen in love with a lot of the new React router stuff. So like the whole loaders and actions in React Router 6.4 and above, and in Remix, I'm kind of really enjoying this pattern, which you're seeing adopted in more frameworks. So I was using Svelte.js the other day. They've kind of adopted this pattern. I was using Solid Start a couple weeks before that, and they've adopted these patterns, or at least very close to these patterns. Of basically, particularly of actions. The idea that you can basically have a form component that just kind of works like a traditional form with your client-side routes or server-side routes. So I love all that, but the thing is that it's like I thought I would show an example where we kind of set up something like routing in React without actually using router. Like, what would it look like? What is it kind of doing? Okay, so what I'm going to do is not necessarily the exact same thing that router is doing. Well, actually, we could try to adapt it to that. But let's just kind of show you. Okay, so what I'm going to do is create a new React app. So we're going to just say npx create React app at latest. Again, just because my npm acts funny when I don't do that. Create React app at latest, and we'll just call it no router routing. Okay, I'm going to let that project get created. So I'll just pause this for a second. Okay, so now that the project is generated, what we want to do is cd into the app. Oops, I just realized I made the app in the wrong place. First app, here it is, no router routing. So let me cut that out of there and paste it into here. There we go. And then let me cd into there. So cd up folder and then cd into no router routing. There we go. Okay. So let's just make sure that the project is working. npm start. And here we go. That looks good. Set this up to the side so we can kind of see it at work. And first off, we just want to create the ability to kind of like be able to swap components in a way. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new component source. We're going to call, so we'll create two new folders, components. And like we would normally do with router, actually let's make that lowercase components. And then we'll create a new folder called pages. And we're going to create a new file. We'll call it the router component. Okay, essentially with the way this is going to work, this initial version, okay, we'll keep kind of refining it to kind of make it more similar to the experience in React Router. Not exact, because there's a lot more going on with React Router. We're not going to rebuild all of that right now, but just so you can kind of see what's kind of going on. Okay, so in this case, what we're going to do is we're going to say function export default function router props, and what we're going to do is we're going to do this. Actually get use state. So it's just woke up. Import use state. That's a named export, so we gotta put the curly brackets around it. From React. Okay. And what we're going to do is we're going to create a state that's called like route. Okay, so we're going to say const route equals and use state. And what I'm going to do is there's certain things I want to know. Okay, one, I want to know what data should that be passed to that route as props, and two, what URL should we, what component should be rendered. Okay, so basically what I'm going to do is say use state, and we're going to create an object, and then we're going to say like the path. And right now the path is going to be just slash to start off with, and then we're going to have props. Okay, which are going to start out blank. Okay, awesome. And then what we're going to do is we're just going to have a switch component. Okay, or not a switch component, a switch, just a normal JavaScript switch that is going to take the use. Oh wait, then I set that up right. Oh, you can tell I just woke up. This should be route set route switch, and then we're going to create different possible cases. Okay, so slash, so case slash, we'll say then what I want to do is return h1 h1 slash the slash route. Okay, and then I didn't actually write, this should be route because we're testing it against the route. So the idea is whatever, and it's technically the route.path. So basically the idea is that route.path, if it equals this, then we're going to return this. And then we'll just keep making different cases. Okay. Case. Well, let me just make the default case real quick. Default. Return h1 default. That should never happen, but just in case. Case slash cheese. Okay, and then that's going to return h1 the cheese route. Okay, cool. So now when I look at that, basically what this component will return will be based on this switch and the particular case that we fall into. So now what I'm going to do is I have exported this component. I'm going to import this into app. So I want to import router into app. And I'm just going to replace all of this with the router. Okay, and see we got the slash route. Cool. Now what I'd like to do is kind of give it more sophisticated pages. So what we'll do is we start making page components that we can use. So new page or new file. Okay, and what's going to happen is that I want to, we'll call this home, the home page. We're just going to say function export default home props. Okay, export default home props. And basically we just want to return h1 Why doesn't it like that? Oh, I forgot the function keyword. I always do that. h1 home. Okay, and then we're going to say new file. Call this the cheese page, cheese.js. And I will just kind of copy this. And this will be cheese. And now let me go update that in my router. So let me go import home. And I'm going to import cheese from I know why I did. I don't, yep, change this to be cheese. So cheese, there we go. So now when we render this route, instead of rendering this h1, I want to render home. And instead of when it's this case, I want to render cheese. Okay. So now what I need to do is find a way to update this state. Okay. So the simplest thing right now, what I want to do is I want whatever the props are to be passed to that route. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to just do one of these, route.props. That's actually going to pass each thing that's in that object is an individual prop. So it's just that way I can always, pass the props that I want. And I can control that through the updates to the state. And then the second thing I'm going to want to do is let's try to create a link component. Okay. So let's see here. So const link equals, okay, and the component should have props. Okay, and it's going to essentially, how would you do that? Oh, I know how. Okay, return a div. Okay, and then what we're going to do is we say, hey, anything in the div, within the div will be the children, props.children. So that's anything that's inside the opening and closing tag of the component. Okay, and then what we're going to do is we're going to make the div clickable. Okay, so we're going to create a handle click, const handle click, a function for handling the click, and say, hey, whenever you click on this, what's going to happen is that we're going to set the route component. Okay, set the route component to a new object, and it's going to be based on the props that are passed in. So we're going to pass in a new path, which will be props.path. And then we'll also pass in a props component, which will be props.props. There we go. Okay, so the idea is basically I can pass that details into the link component, and that should, now we just say, hey, whenever you click on that div, so that's anything that's kind of inside the div, on click equals handle click. I could have made it an A tag. Actually, I probably should make it an A tag just to make it more consistent. Okay, and then technically then I do want to take the event, and I want to prevent default, because I want to prevent the link tag, the A tag, from actually going to another page and trying to refresh the page. So event.prevent default. There we go. Okay. So then what I can do for now is I can just pass that as a prop to each component. So we'll just say like link equals link, and pass that as a prop to cheese as well. Okay, so basically, I mean, the way React Router does it is they use this other feature in React called context. So technically, you could define this sort of overarching component that provides data to your whole app, and that's kind of how they're able to make all these components kind of work a little bit differently. But this kind of just shows you sort of a simplified version of the story. Okay, so essentially, kind of the basic idea is, depending on what the state is, we're rendering a different component, and then I'm passing a link component down to each of those paths as a prop, so that way they can link to other pages. So let's try that out. So if I go to home, let's make a button. So we'll just change this. So we'll say div, and then we're gonna have the h1 for home, and then we're gonna have a button. Well, actually, we're gonna have I'm going to destructure that link component from props. Okay, so you can pass components down as props. So there's link, and then we're going to give it the path of /cheese, and then we're going to, I'm not going to pass any props, but I'll still just do this. Okay, so I'm just passing an empty object. And then we'll just say this is a button that says cheese. Okay, so theoretically, when I click this button, when I click this button, it's inside the link, so it should be subject to that link. And then when I click on it, what's going to do, it's going to trigger, if I go back to router, trigger this link function with this handle click function, which again sets the route, and it's going to set it to whatever I set up as that path prop. So if I click on that, see the component re-renders because the state has changed, except now when the state has changed, path is now going to be /cheese. So when it hits the switch, instead of returning this, it's going to return this. Okay? So that's essentially what's going on. Basically, what's happening is that there's some state somewhere, and that's going to trigger a re-render of this parent component, and that's usually what's like your router provider. Your router provider is in the newest versions of React Router or browser router in older versions. That's the thing that's kind of like tracking that state and making everything else kind of work. Here I'm just kind of doing it all in one component. Okay. So now let me make a link back. So now if I were to go back over here, I'm just going to copy this to save some time. And then I'll just paste that here. I want to make sure I destructure link from the props. Okay, and in this case we want to go back to slash. So now if I click here on home, I go with the cheese. Oh, yeah, that should be right. So refresh. And this should take me back home. And this should say cheese, so I know which page I'm on. Okay. And see, I'm switching pages, but the only thing that's kind of missing now is like the URL bar isn't changing. Okay. So basically what that is what's the text here should be what's called a location. So let me see here if I remember how to change that. Let's actually Google that real quick. How to change the text in the URL bar without navigation, without triggering like a refresh of the page. Updating the edit bar with a new URL without a hash. Pretty sure you can now do this in most modern browsers. Use the original article I read for more in-depth look. Here we go. Window.history.push string title new URL. Okay, window.history.pushState. So we want to do that. And that's just going to change the URL in the URL bar without us necessarily going to another page. So let's try that out. So that would be a change that I'd want to do. Okay, and then I would want to get the existing URL, modify the URL without reloading the page. So let me see how they did it here. Response.page title. Let's see here. And response.html page title. Push date. I'm not sure if that's exactly what I want to do. Here we go. How do I use JavaScript to modify the URL bar? I just want to see the example. This will create a new entry in the browser's history without reloading. Okay, this is what I want. Replace state. This will replace the current entry in the browser's history without reloading. Next state, next URL. New page title, next URL. Okay, this will create a new entry in the browser. This will replace the verse sign. That's going to reload when you're using location. So let's try that out. Okay, so basically we would want to do this, replace state. So I'm going to head over back to app. Actually not app, to router. And what we would want to do is but I want to get like the current page's host. So I always forget. Let's actually just console log the window object. Why not? Okay, console.log the window object. Okay, let me open up my DevTools. Do a refresh. Click here. Okay, here's the window object. Let's see what's in there. What I want to do is find if I can find like the URL, the current URL, so I can use that to reconstruct a new URL. Because right now all my props has is like //cheese. I want to get that first, like localhost 3000 part. So let's see here. I'm pretty sure it's in there somewhere. She's probably going to be in location. Location, URL, location. Yeah, there we go, host. Okay, so we want to use a location host, or we can actually just use the href, and then we can go from there. Okay, perfect. So let's try this. Window.history.replace state. Okay. And let's see what happens if I just do this. Unused string. And all I really care about is the new URL, which is going to be the location.host plus props.path. Okay, so if this works, what should happen is that it's going to replace the URL, and then, but it shouldn't navigate. So if I click on home here, let's refresh the page. Okay, we get an error. Failed to execute replace state on history. A history state object with URL cannot be created in a document with origin. Localhost/e. Let's see what happens if I just do props.path. Oh, okay, that works. And see, there it is. So that's technically all it takes to change the URL bar. Okay, so technically, again, I haven't actually changed pages. As you see, all I was doing is updating the state, but I give that appearance that I'm going to different pages because I'm changing the URL bar. And that's essentially how React Router works. Okay, it just gives you, you're just really updating state and then rendering different components based on your state. But what they're doing is they're just doing this window.history.replace state. When you do that, to give you the feel that you're actually navigating between different pages. So yeah, hopefully you guys found that interesting. And basically gives you an idea of, like, again, how this all works. Okay, now again, there's different ways you could do this. You don't have to necessarily do it with a switch. I did it as a switch because it was the quickest way I could think of right now, but you could do like an object that where you use dynamic keys. You could use all sorts of different possibilities. But essentially, that's all that's happening. Every time I click with the link, all it's doing is causing an update to the state and swapping the URL bar, creating that illusion that I'm swapping out different pages, but I'm really just swapping out components on the same page. So have a great day. My name is Alex Merced from AlexMercedCoder.dev. Have a great day. Make sure you leave a link. Leave a comment, like the video, subscribe. Have a great day and enjoy.